The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the manfromleng. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are kicking off our campaign through the Dream Eater cycle. That's right, we are tackling Scenario 1A, Beyond the Gates of Sleep. Those of you out there will know that the Dream Eater cycle is a little bit different than past cycles. It is actually two campaigns in one. The first half of the campaign takes place in the Dreamlands, and the second half, with a different investigator or group of investigators, takes place in the waking world. At least some of it does. So we are going to kick things off with the Dreamlands portion of it. I hope everyone out there had a fantastic holiday season. I didn't get a chance to play as much Arkham Horror as I would have liked, so I thought tonight would be a perfect opportunity to sit down with a beverage and play some of these scenarios and see how we do. Before we get started, I would like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. These people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these playthroughs, and I am very appreciative of their support over the past 6 months or so, and I'm looking forward to bringing you more great Arkham Horror content over the next year as we head into, I believe it will be year 4 come February. So we've been doing this for already 4 years. Wow, that's a long time. I'd also like to thank Cole Monroe Chitty for the great art to the new art for the splash screen. I commissioned a couple of pieces from him to serve as splash screens for the channel, and he did a terrific job of capturing the man from Leng and the High Priest not to be described. A big thank you to the patrons for their support. We wouldn't have been able to hire Cole to put together this art without their support. So once again, thank you very much. Now, as for the investigators, there is only one investigator, I think, who can make a shot at the Dreamlands in the Dream Eater cycle, and that is none other than Luke Robinson, the Dreamer. This is a deck that is based on a deck built by Starts with a Name over at Arkham DB. I didn't make that many changes to it. I simply swapped he had 2 copies of Rite of Seeking and 1 copy of Sixth Sense. I swapped those around, so I've got 2 copies of Sixth Sense and 1 copy of Rite of Seeking, simply because Sixth Sense is a little bit better in solo play, where Rite of Seeking works better in multiplayer, and the deck, I believe, was initially built for multiplayer. I was very tempted to change the Calling in Favors. I've never had much luck with that card in solo play. I never find like I have the opportunity to really use it and abuse it like it should be, but I decided to keep it in. We'll see how it does in this playthrough, and then we'll go from there. I did have a chance over Christmas to test this deck a couple times against this scenario, and it did fairly well. I went down to defeat both times. One of those was very unlucky, however, so I am hoping to put up a W today. The deck is fairly straightforward. It uses Hawkeye, Folding Camera, Holy Rosary, and David Renfield to boost Luke's willpower up to, what do we get? He's already at a 4, so he'd be a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7 if we can get everything online. The Hawkeye Folding Camera is nice, that it will also boost his intellect, although I think we are predominantly investigating with his willpower and hopefully Sixth Sense or Rite of Seeking. Speaking of Sixth Sense, we've got Sixth Sense, Rite of Seeking, and Draw into the Flame to discover clues. We have Shriveling and Storm of Spirits for offense. Shriveling being good for single targets, while Storm of Spirits being ideal for swarms of enemies, of which there are plenty in the Dream Eater cycle. Many different swarms or enemies with the swarm keyword on them. And if you remember from the rules, when swarms come out, you have to place cards from your deck underneath them, and they count as that card counts as an enemy that you must deal with, either by defeating it or evading it. If you try to defeat them, you have to defeat them one at a time unless you can do extra damage, in which case you can knock multiple swarms out at once. But they do evade as a group, fortunately, so you don't have to make multiple evade checks to evade a swarm. We've got Mr. Rook, Eureka, and Astounding Revelation to search the draw deck and hopefully generate some resources with that Astounding Revelation. There is one copy of Quantum Flux in there in order to reshuffle all that goodness back into the draw deck should we have the opportunity. There's also a copy of Knowledge is Power in there that we can use to trigger either predominantly Shriveling in this case. You can either use it to trigger the Shriveling in your hand, or you get a free charge on a Shriveling that's on the table. Finally, there is Calling in Favors that we can use to try to refresh Mr. Rook once we use all of the I believe it's secrets on him. We can shuffle him back into the deck and hopefully get a new copy, or we can swap to David Renfield as necessary to boost Luke's willpower and or generate resources. And in this particular scenario, David is actually quite nice because there is only one agenda that has a doom threshold of 19, I believe. So you can definitely abuse David in the early game, stack a bunch of doom on him, and really go to town in the resource department. That is, as long as you have a way of getting rid of David before you run out, before you hit that 19. We do have a summary of the campaign so far. Not much to talk about besides Luke Robinson. At the beginning of this particular scenario, you do get to experience a dream based on either your class or some of the traits, such as Wayfarer or Drifter. I believe Luke gets Wayfarer, Drifter, or Mystic, so or one of the neutral ones should he wish. I went with he experienced the Mystic Dream, which lets him start with a Mystic card in play, paying its cost, and we'll see what I chose there. Lots of good cards to choose from to start with in play, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get there. Hello, everybody. Glad you could make it. Hope you had a happy holidays. I was off skiing for some of the holidays anyway, and had a good time. Not much snow, unfortunately, up here on the plateau this year. A little too much rain, but we had a good time nonetheless. We are set up here. We have Luke Robinson. He begins play here at the 70 Steps of Light Slumber. It's a one-shroud location with one clue. It has the forced effect: when you leave the 70 steps, take one horror for each card in your hand in excess of 5. And it has a free triggered ability: choose and discard one card from your hand. I've used my little exclamation mark here just to mark as a reminder that this does have a special ability that I need to pay attention to. The second location in play is the Cavern of Flame. It is we cannot enter the Cavern of Flame unless all the clues on 70 steps have been discovered. So we'll just need to grab that one clue, and then we can head over there, where we will meet the two guardians of the Cavern of Flame, Nasht and Kamanta. Nasht is a 2-fight, 3 health, 2 evade Dreamlands Warden Elite. Both of them have Aloof and Retaliate. Both have parlay tests. Nasht is combat or evade or agility 2, but they get +1 difficulty for each investigator in the game. So for us, that will be a 3. So if we parlay with him successfully, we get to flip him over and deal with him that way. Otherwise, we will have to kill him if we are unable to pass either a combat or agility test. And our agility is only 3, so that's not great. He's a little bit difficult for us to deal with right off the bat. Kamanta, on the other hand, is 2 fight, 3 health, and 2 evade, and his parlay test is either willpower or intellect 3. So we are definitely in much better shape to deal with him, starting with a willpower of 4. And if we manage to get that Hawkeye folding camera down early, we could be at a 5. Or maybe even David Renfield, we could be at a 5 before we deal with him. So he's the lesser of the two evils once we reach the Cavern of Flame. And hopefully we will be able to deal with both of those. The Agenda 1A is Journey Through the Gates. From your initial dream, you have been drawn into a familiar dreamscape, the same one that Virgil Grey traversed in his story in Tales from Nevermore. Is this real, or is your mind simply conjuring what it expects to see? It has the forced effect when doom is placed on this agenda during the Mythos phase. If any investigator is at a step's location, place 1 additional doom on this agenda. So as long as we are at the beginning of the scenario, we are adding 2 doom per turn to this. However, the nice thing is we are not drawing encounter cards, so we don't have to worry about the encounter deck until we are through the initial phase of this scenario. Act 1A is Entering the Dreamlands. The door leading out of your initial dream takes you to a stone staircase. Thousands of different stairways join together here, forming an incomprehensible nexus of steps where worlds and stories join together. Where the stairs meet, they form a single spiraling pathway descending deeper into the land of dreams. You do not draw cards from the encounter deck during the Mythos phase, and it has the objective: if an investigator enters the Cavern of Flame, we immediately advance. We have set several cards aside, including the 700 steps, the base of the steps, and the enchanted path. Our goal at the beginning of this scenario, of course, is just to reach the enchanted path, at which point we get a whole bunch of new locations to deal with. And then we will need 5, I believe it is 5 clues per investigator in order to advance. We also have Randolph Carter here. I don't believe he plays any role in this scenario, but we do have a chance to add him to our deck later. And we've got the Laboring Gug. This is an enemy that comes out at some point toward the end of the scenario. It's got 5 fight, 5 health, and 2 evade. It's a monster Gug. It is Hunter, and the Laboring Gug cannot enter the enchanted path. It's worth a victory point, and it hits for 3 damage and 1 horror. That is a mean enemy for sure. You do not want to get trapped by him. I have played this scenario several times already, and I have managed to kill him a couple times, even with a Withering. My Marie Lambeau deck managed to take him down with a Withering, which was pretty surprising. But he is... you can kill him, but you do need to have something. You need to have the cards to do it. So speaking of, we did get to start this game with a Mystic card in play. I decided to choose Shriveling. There were a lot of good choices. I weighed David Renfield. I thought about actually putting St. Hubert's Key in this deck, just so I could start with it at the beginning of the game. That would give me 5 willpower and 4 intellect. But the reason I chose Shriveling is because neither of those cards actually help me deal with our friend Nasht here. Our agility is only 3, so pulling off that parlay check is fairly difficult for us, just even odds. And this deck doesn't have a lot of agility skill icons in it, so our best bet is to just shoot him down, take a couple of actions with Shriveling, and burn him to the ground, and then we should be able to advance. So starting with Shriveling in play is very helpful there. Probably, as far as I think, in my opinion, the best that we can do to speed things along. We don't want to get stuck at the Cavern of Flame for too long, because of course we're adding 2 doom per Mythos phase as long as we're on the steps. So hopefully Shriveling will help us get through there quickly, and we will be on our way. Then we'll have to figure out a way to deal with that Laboring Gug should he appear sometime later. We also have Luke's signature location, Dreamgate Wondrous Journey. We can use our gate box to flee there from enemies. The timing windows are such that after hunter enemies move, there is a player window there where you can trigger free triggered abilities like the gate box. So enemies can move, hunters can move on to you, then you can trigger the gate box to escape from them. So that's awfully nice. We've only got 3 charges though, unless we happen to draw some Elder Signs and place a charge on that gate box. And we've got 2 copies of Arcane Research that we will be using to upgrade our deck later. But we do have to take the two mental trauma to start off with. Now, in my experience, these scenarios, the first 2 scenarios of this campaign, Beyond the Gates of Sleep and Waking Nightmare, they both give you a ton of experience points, probably because this is a shortened campaign. There are only 4 scenarios apiece. So you're basically getting about 2 scenarios worth of experience points in one scenario, from which you can upgrade your deck. So we will have to, we'll see how we do, and we'll go from there. I have not drawn my my weakness for this game, so we will shuffle those up and we will see how we do. We end up with the Mob Enforcer. So Luke has a Mob Enforcer on his tail. Mob Enforcer has 4 fight, 3 health, and 3 evade. Humanoid Criminal, his prey is the bearer only. He's a hunter, and we can spend 4 resources to parlay with him to discard him. So hopefully we'll have the resources available when the Mob Enforcer tracks us down in the Dreamlands. That is going to be quite a trick, I think, for the Mob Enforcer to pull. He will have to go to sleep and give chase that way. I think we're ready to draw our opening hand, so let's see how we do here. See how we do in our with our opening draw. We get a Holy Rosary, 2 copies of Knowledge's Power, a copy of Rite of Seeking, and the Hawkeye folding camera. We will keep the Hawkeye folding camera, and I think we'll keep the Rosary. Wow, this is a pretty good hand. Knowledge's Power gives us an extra shot with our Shriveling, so I think we'll keep that as well. Boy, Knowledge's Power is so good that I'd be tempted to keep 2 copies, in which case we just need to mulligan the Rite of Seeking. It's a tough choice. What else do we have in our deck that we could use? Drawn to the Flame isn't going to be all that helpful. Because we can't draw cards from the encounter deck because the encounter deck doesn't exist. Mr. Rook, that we do need an ally, so I think we are going to mulligan 2 cards to see if we can't get ourselves an ally. There's an Astounding Revelation and a Quantum Flux, so not really happy with how that with those draws. The Astounding Revelation, of course, is not going to help us all that much because you can't do anything with it in your hand besides commit it to a skill test. We do have the Quantum Flux, though, so we could commit this Astounding Revelation and then shuffle it back into our deck so we can draw it to hopefully find it when we search our deck if and when we draw Mr. Rook. Let's kick this game off. I think we will gain our 3 actions. And we'll spend the first action to play the Hawkeye folding camera for 2 resources. And so once we investigate this, once we get this clue, we will grab our willpower will go up by 1. So we will use our second action to investigate. We are going 3 versus 1. I like those odds. So let's see what our first pull from the Chaos Bag is going to be. Chaos Bag gives us a 0. So we will discover this clue and we will add a chart. We will add a, we'll place a resource on the Hawkeye folding camera. So our willpower is now up to 5, which is very good. Just want to make sure, yep, everything is set there. We have one action remaining. We will, I believe, just move into the Cavern of Flame. We will flip that over. Cavern of Flame is a 9-shroud location with 0 clues, and at the end of the... Now, we had this... each take 1 horror for each card in excess of your hand of 5. We only have 4 cards, so that doesn't matter. At the end of the Mythos phase, each investigator in the Cavern of Flame takes 1 damage. Okay, so we'll move our exclamation mark there. So we're going to be taking some damage. We want to get out of here as quickly as possible. And I believe that's it for the investigation phase. So if an investigator enters the Cavern of Flame, we immediately advance. This is Act 1B, Priests of the Dreamlands. At the center of the cavern is a pillar of flame, flanked by 2 robed, bearded men. You recognize this scene from the writings of Virgil Gray. The priests, the cavern, it's all just as he described. Either you have ventured into the same dreamscape or you are sharing in his delusions. You must be tested, one of the priests says enigmatically. Your ordeal will be great, and thus so too will be your trial. So each investigator loses all of their clues. That's easy enough to do. We put the set-aside Nasht and Kamanta enemies into play in the Cavern of Flame. So they show up. And your slumber grows deeper. We add 1 skull token to the chaos bag for the remainder of the campaign. So we will go and add a skull to the chaos bag. There, you add multiple skulls during this scenario. So you start off with 0, but that changes very quickly. So we add a skull. Now, just to go through Beyond the Gates of Sleep, we are playing on standard difficulty. The skulls are -X, where X is half the number of cards in your hand rounded up. So we have 2 cards in our hand, so the skulls are -2. The cultist, of which there is 1, is -X, where X is the number of revealed Enchanted Woods locations. That gets very painful towards the end of the game as you reveal those Enchanted Woods locations. And the tablet is a -2 if you fail, and this is an attack or evasion attempt against a swarming enemy. We have to add a swarming card to it. So that will be, we have done everything we need there. We go to Act 2A, the Trial of Nasht and Kamanta. The barred golden gates beyond will not open for you. Only the priests can judge whether you are worthy to pass through to the steps below. They cross their weapons, a steel halberd and a silver scythe, in front of the gates. So we do not draw cards during the encounter from the encounter deck during the Mythos phase. If neither Nasht nor Kamanta are in play, we immediately advance. So we will have to deal with them the next turn. So we draw a Eureka. Now Eureka gives us an agility skill icon, which is awfully nice, and lets us search the top 3 cards of our deck for a card. So we may want to commit that sooner than later to in order to get Mr. Rook in play, so we can grab some other goodies that are in our deck. Now we're going to have to deal with these 2. We can parlay with Kamanta easily enough, I think. We're going to have to kill Nasht, but we can do it in 2 shots. We do have a Knowledge's Power, so we can save ourselves a charge and an action. Knowledge's Power is just so good. Saves ourselves a charge and an action, and we can take him down, hopefully, in 2 shots. So we go to the Mythos phase. So we are at we are on the steps, so we will add another Doom, and then at the end of the Mythos phase, we have to take a damage because we are in the Cavern of Flame. We only have 5 health, so that is not a lot to work with. It may be, maybe taking an ally like David Renfield is good in this situation, because you do get to take that, he can take that health damage for you. All right, we get our 3 actions. It is the investigation phase again. All right, let's try to deal with Nasht first. So we are going to fight him. We will play our knowledge as power. To choose a spell asset we control, resolve the ability on the asset ignoring all costs. So we get to attack Nasht for free, and we get to save a charge, which is awesome. So we are going 5 versus 2 for this attack. Chaos Bag gives us a -2. So we hit him for 2 damage. And then we will do it again as our first action of the turn. So we're going 5 versus 2. Now, do we want to spend something on that? What is the biggest? I think it's a -4. What's the parlay? 5 versus 3. I think I'm going to spend the Eureka now to go 6 versus 2. So we'll get to search if we are successful. Chaos Bag gives us a -1. So the Eureka will trigger. Get to look at the top 3 cards. And there is our weakness. And there is now, is this a search? The investigator performing this test searches the top 3 cards of his or her deck for a card and draws it. So we search our deck, we find an astounding revelation in there, so we can either gain 2 resources or place a secret. I will gain the 2 resources. Unfortunately, the only card we find other than our weakness is a Calling in Favors, so we will take that, and we will shuffle up our deck. So the search tech we've already found ourselves 1 astounding revelation. So we gained a couple resources that way. And Nasht has been defeated. So we will flip him over and see what we get. All right. If you defeated Nasht, read the following. The Guardian dismisses you with a gentle wave of his hand, and you were sent hurtling into the wall of the cavern. Your eyes mistake me for a feeble old man. This is your lesson. Do not trust your eyes, for they will lie to you. He steps aside to let you pass. Add this card to the victory display. So he gives us a Jedi Master Yoda moment. Our eyes will deceive us. We will take what he has to say, and we will add this to the victory display. All right, we need to take care of Kamanta here. And then we will be good to go. We are 5 versus 2. I like our 5 versus 3, on the parlay test. Let's see how we do. 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag gives us a Cultist, which is a -X. X is number of Enchanted Woods locations. So we do succeed. So we do get to flip him over as well. All right. If you parlayed with Kamanta, read the following. Your mind is strong, the Guardian admits, but are you ready to shed your concept of truth, of reality? If so, alter your clothing. You protest out of confusion. This is a land of wills, the priest continues. If your resolve is truly strong enough, prove it to me. You close your eyes and imagine a different outfit, straining to recall its texture, its color, its smell. Each and every thread of fabric. When you open your eyes, you are wearing it. Good, Kamanta says, stepping aside. Add this card to the victory display. So we have added that to the victory display. We have dealt with the Guardians. And we are ready to continue our journey. If neither Nasht nor Kamanta are in play, we immediately advance. We advance to Act 2B. Beware the road ahead. Satisfied that you are worthy to enter the Dreamlands, the priests step aside to let you pass, and the gate beyond opens. Before you step through, one of them grabs you by the wrist and gives you a final warning. Your journey shall take you beyond the lands of the gods. The eye of chaos is upon you now. Follow the path, and you shall be safe. But beware. He tightens his grip. Stray not from the path. So each investigator loses all their clues. We put the set aside 700 steps, base of the steps, and enchanted path locations into play. So no problem there. Grab these 3 locations. And we add another, our slumber deepens, so we add another skull token to the chaos bag. So there are now 2 skulls in there. All right. Now, we can move. We don't want to stay at the Cavern of Flame. If at all possible, we will use our last action to move to the 700 steps. It's a 2-shroud location with 1 clue forced. When you leave the 700 steps, take 1 horror for each card in your hand in excess of 3. And we can take an action, free triggered ability to choose and discard 1 card from our hand. So what I think we'll do here, just move our exclamation mark to remind us that we need only 3 cards in our hand, otherwise we will take horror. Luke's pretty good on the horror front, so we don't have to worry too much about that. But I think what I'm going to do is probably commit this copy of Astounding Revelation to the next investigate test I do, and then maybe play this Quantum Flux to shuffle everything back, the 2 Astounding Revelations back into my deck, so I can draw them again or search them up again. Hopefully, when we draw our buddy Mr. Rook, because Mr. Rook is horribly broken and probably will be added to the list of taboos here the next time it is updated. I think he is simply too good with a lot of the cards that are available now. All right, so that's turn 2. No enemies to worry about. We draw a copy of Uncage the Soul, so we can play a spell or ritual reducing its cost by 3. We don't have any spells or rituals to worry about right now, so that's not going to help us. We go to the Mythos phase. We add another Doom because we are not at the Enchanted Path yet. And we are ready to go. No encounter cards, so we just get our 3 actions. All right. So we need to dump some cards in our hand. So what we could do, I think we're going to investigate first off. If we clear this location, then we can add another charge to our, what are they calling them? Place a resource as evidence. So we can add another evidence to the Hawkeye folding camera. That will boost our intellect by 1 until we can get our 6th sense. So let's do that now. I'm going to commit this Astounding Revelation because that's all it's good for. So we are going to go 4 versus 2. The Chaos Bag is going to give us a -2, so we are successful. So we grab this clue. The Astounding Revelation goes into our discard pile. Now, what we could do, we can move 2 base of the steps, but we're going to take a damage here. So what I think we'll do, we're going to use an action. We've got 2 copies of Astounding Revelation in our discard pile, so we'll spend a resource and an action to play Quantum Flux to shuffle our discard pile back into our deck and draw a card. We remove Quantum Flux from the game. So that gets removed from the game, but we get to shuffle this back in. And we get to draw a card. And there is our friend, Mr. Rook. That worked out about as well as you could have hoped, I think. We have one action remaining. We can discard a card as a free triggered ability. And then move. Or we could play Mr. Rook now. Because we're going to draw a card next turn. Draw a card during the upkeep. Then we'd have to choose whether to discard it or not. Then we want to move, but we don't want to. So we can't really use Mr. Rook right now because we're going to have too many cards we're going to have to discard. So let's play him. We'll pay 3 resources and use our final action to play Mr. Rook. So he has 3 secrets on him. We're not going to use him though, because then we're gonna draw a card this turn. We'll see what it is. If we can get rid of it, we will, and we will go from there. So we draw an astounding revelation. Go figure. Okay, so that would have been nice if had that stayed in our draw deck. Unfortunately, we did draw it, so we will simply move on to the Mythos phase. We will add another Doom. So we're at 6 of 19. So this is going to make it pretty easy. We have to, if we have too many cards in our hand, we're going to take a Horror. I will take the free triggered ability to simply discard this Astounding Revelation. And we will then move to the base of the steps. Base of the steps is a 3-shroud location with 1 clue. After you enter base of the steps, if you have at least 1 card in your hand, test Willpower X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. If you fail, for each card in your hand, you must either take 1 horror or discard that card. Okay, so we are testing Willpower 5 versus Will 3. So we're going 5-3, and if we fail, we either have to take a horror or discard a card. I'm not overly attached to many of the cards in my hand. They'd be nice to keep, but I could also lose them. So let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say. Chaos Bag gives us a skull. That is a 2. It's half the number of cards in our hand rounded up. So we were 5 versus 3, so we did pass, and we don't have to discard anything. So no big deal there. All right. Let's, what are we going to do now? We want to get to the Enchanted Path this turn if we can. We've got a 4 versus 3 in terms of investigating here. We do have a Calling in Favors, which is would give us an extra intellect skill icon if we wanted it, but we've been doing okay. So let's just go 4 versus 3. Chaos Bag says -2, so that's going to be a failure. And let's try again. 4 versus 3. We get an auto fail, so no big deal there. Let's use Mr. Rook. Let's go hunting. I think I'll look at the top 9. We'll see what happens. We'll probably, well, yeah, we'd get our weakness. We're not really in a position to deal with our guy, though. Well, let's see. I like 9. No weaknesses in the top 9 cards of our deck. We have got a Eureka, Knowledge is Power, Drawn to the Flame, Calling in favors of a Holy Rosary, Rite of Seeking, a Shriveling, and 2 copies of Sixth Sense. Sixth Sense would be helpful. We don't really have the resources for it, though. We could do it next turn, though. So let's grab the Sixth Sense. And we'll play that next turn. Then we're investigating with a 5, which is better than what we've been doing with 4. So that'll do it for this turn. We draw a Rite of Seeking. Actually, I forgot to shuffle up our deck, so we need to do that. Oh, did I? What was the first card? Sixth Sense. Stop looking at... I did shuffle the deck. Okay, so we do draw the Rite of Seeking. All right, we go to the Mythos phase. We had another Doom. 8 of 19. Hopefully this will be the last turn we spend here. But we're also going to have to start drawing encounter cards, which is not going to be good. So we will use an action to gain a resource. We will use an action to... use an action to play our Sixth Sense. So we're going to have to spend 2 more turns here. 1 more turn here. So we've got our Sixth Sense. Then we will use our Sixth Sense to investigate with willpower instead of intellect. So we will be going 5 versus 3. I'm going to commit this... what am I doing? I have got that Uncage the Soul. Okay, go back. I'm screwing up here. So we had 5. We didn't need the resource. I'm screwing up here. Got the I have the answer in my hand and I'm not paying attention. So we don't need to take a resource with our first action. As our first action, we play Uncage the Soul to play Sixth Sense for free. So yeah, we can get out of this. We can get out of this area in this turn. Now we will investigate 5 versus 3. Chaos Bag gives us a +1, so we grab this clue. And we will use our final action to move out to the Enchanted Path. So we are good to go. We flip that over. Enchanted Path. 2 shroud locations, 0 clues. The Enchanted Path is connected to each Enchanted Woods location. The Enchanted Path gets +1 shroud for each unrevealed Enchanted Woods location in play. As for 3 actions, you do as you were told, but you feel as though you're missing something. Place 1 clue on the Enchanted Path from the token pool. So this is how you do not leave the path. You can take 3 actions, put a clue on here, and then grab enough clues and hopefully finish the game. I forgot to advance us to Act 3A, the final descent. The spiraling stairs descend below for what seems like an infinity. You do not draw cards from the encounter deck during the Mythos phase. If each investigator is at the Enchanted Path, we immediately advance. Into Enchantment. When you reach the base of the stairway, you find yourself in an otherworldly oak forest. The forest floor is thick in countless years of fallen leaves, and you are surrounded by glowing fungi and all shapes and sorts. The soil is pierced with gnarled roots, and the trees are strangled by invasive vines. A winding dirt path leads deeper into the woods. Each investigator loses all their clues. Your slumber grows deeper, so we add another skull to the Chaos Bag. We're up to 3 skulls now. We remove all the steps locations from the game. So these all go bye-bye. We will deal with them in a moment. Randomly choose 6 of the set-aside Enchanted Woods locations to put into play. Remove the other copy from the game. So we'll move the Enchanted Path over there. We will shuffle these up. So randomly choose 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Can just dump all these in here since we won't need them anymore. We don't really need our little warning sign anymore for the time being. Shuffle all the remaining set-aside as scenario cards except for the Laboring Gug and Randolph Carter to form the encounter deck. From now on, investigators draw cards from the encounter deck during each Mythos phase as normal. We are on the final act. Act 4A, the path. All you have to do is stay on the path. Forced after the first time any investigator enters an Enchanted Woods location, record in your campaign log the Dreamers strayed from the path. Objective: only investigators at the Enchanted Path may spend the requisite number of clues as a group to advance. That is 5 clues per investigator. So we have reached the final part of the game now. So we need to just grab 5 clues at these locations. And once we do that, we just need to be at the Enchanted Path. Or we could try to just... but the Enchanted Path gets +1 Shroud value for each unrevealed Enchanted Woods location in play. So it's actually a Shroud 8 location right now, and I'm not too sure how you might actually... we really don't have the investigation to do that and stay on the path. But now I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I have heard that Nicholas Corey, I could be mistaken here, but I think it was Nicholas Corey of Mythos Busters, attempted this. I'm not too sure if he succeeded or not, but I think he was the one who did try to stay on the path. So, but I don't think we will be doing that. We don't have the intellect or the willpower right now to do that. So we will see how we do. Now we are sitting. We do have our Mr. Rook trigger available to us this turn. And we gained another evidence on the Hawkeye folding camera. So it's fully powered up. We got +1 willpower, +1 intellect, and +1 sanity. So we have 10 sanity. That's awfully nice. We've got a couple Mr. Rook triggers left. What do we need? We're pretty set up. We've got our Sixth Sense and a Shriveling. Maybe a Storm of Spirits would be nice, just in case. We've got a Rite of Seeking, but I don't think we really need that. Maybe we search... I just, with that guy is so annoying. The Mob Enforcer, we don't have the resources to deal with him at the moment. But we do have a Calling in Favors that we could use to cycle Mr. Rook if we use him. So let's look at the top 3. We'll just be a little bit, we will be a little conservative here. We'll just look at the top 3. And we get a Storm of Spirits, but we also get our weakness. So that's okay. The Storm of Spirits is nice, but we have to pick our weakness. If Dreamgate Wondrous Journey is already in play, flip it over. Otherwise, search your bonded cards for the Dreamgate Pointless Reality and put it into play. So we end up going to our Pointless Reality. Yoink. In either case, disengage from each enemy, engage enemy with you, and move to Dreamgate. So we move to the Dreamgate. The Dreamgate Pointless Reality. Enemies and investigators other than Luke Robinson cannot enter the Dreamgate. Response: after you successfully investigate the Dreamgate, flip it. Forced at the end of the investigation phase, set a Dreamgate aside out of play. If Luke Robinson is here, move him to any revealed location and take 2 horror. So we searched with Mr. Rook. We get We end up going to our dream gate. We end up taking 2 horror. We'll put 1 on Mr. Rook and 1 on us. And then we end up getting dumped right back here at the Enchanted Path. So, yeah, no real harm done there. We did take a horror, but that's fine. We have 10. Now, did I shuffle the deck when I looked? I did not. So this Calling in Favors is not the right card. So let's shuffle that up first, and we get an Uncage the Soul. So we've got the Storm of Spirits that we wanted. We've got an Uncage the Soul, which means we could play a Rite of Seeking, which would give us, we could discover additional clues, but I think there's only 1 clue per thing out right now. The card I would like to get would be maybe now the Holy Rosary to boost our willpower up to 6. So when we investigate with 6th Sense, we are doing even better than we already are. Okay, so that's going to be the upkeep. And so we're going to draw our first encounter card here. We add a Doom, and we draw our first encounter card of the game. Shuffle those up, and let's see how we do. First encounter card is a Zoog. It's a furtive Zoog. He has 3 fight, 1 health, and 1 evade. Creature Zoog engaged with the investigator with the lowest combat. That would be me. And its prey is lowest combat. It has retaliate and swarming 1. So we need to... whoops. I did not mean to draw that Knowledge is Power. So we will shuffle that back up. And I need to put... Come on, mouse. Don't fail me now. So there's the swarming card underneath our furtive Zoog. So 1 shriveling will deal with the furtive Zoog. So that's okay. So let's add 3 actions. We go to the investigation phase. We have 10 turns to get 5 to grab our 5 clues. Now we are going 5 versus 3. I think what I'm going to do, we will, our first action, let's kill the Zoogs. I will spend a charge, and I'm going to commit this Uncage the Soul for the 2 willpower skill icons to go 7 versus 3. I'm going to hit for 2 damage, which will be enough to kill both of these creatures. Chaos Bag says Skull. That is half the number of cards in my hand rounded up, so that's a -2. So we are successful. So the Zoogs die. That goes away, and this goes to the bottom of my deck. So that card is gone to the bottom of my deck. It was a skull, so we do take a horror. Thanks to shriveling. Now, we've got 1 more. I think what I'd like to do is get... I'm going to spend an action to play my... Whoops, I spent too many resources. I have 1 resource left. I'm going to spend those to get the Holy Rosary down. So our willpower bumps up to 6 now. So we're a 6, 4, 2, 3. And we'll just move here. See what this location has to hold. The Enchanted Woods, the Moon Tree, 3 shroud location with 1 clue. Forced, after you enter this location, you must either take 2 horror or lose all of your remaining actions. Oh, that's too bad for us. We lose all of our remaining actions. No harm there. We have 1 Mr. Rook counter left. We have dealt with our weakness. We have 19 cards in our deck. So if we look at 9, we're basically looking at half the cards. We're pretty set up. Maybe another Shriveling would be nice, just in case. But I mean, we've got a Storm of Spirits. We've got. I don't think I'm going to use the Rite of Seeking. But 9 cards we've got. We would take a hit from the chump. Yeah, let's search top 9. We're going to look at the top 9. So we will exhaust him. That will be him. We're going to look at top 9. We're looking for Astounding Revelations at this point. That's what we want. We search top 9. We do find an Astounding Revelation. So we will gain 2 resources, which we're going to need. We also get a card. We've got a lot of choices. So we've got Hawkeye Folding Camera, Knowledge is Power, David Renfield, Holy Rosary, Ward of Protection, Astounding Revelation, which we've already triggered. We have to take the Mob Enforcer and a Drawn to the Flame. So what to take? The Knowledge is Power would give us an additional Shriveling charge. Or we could play Storm of Spirits from our hand. I kind of like that, although the Ward of Protection would help us. There is a card, I forget what it is, Lost in the Woods or something. That's bad news. I think I'm going to take the Knowledge. It's just too good to ignore. So we end up engaged with our friend here, the Mob Enforcer. The Astounding Revelation goes away. During the enemy phase, the Mob Enforcer hits us for a damage. Did I shuffle the deck? No, I did not. So the Hawkeye Folding Camera is wrong. There we go. Okay, so the Mob Enforcer shows up. He hits us for damage, which Mr. Rook is more than happy to take for us. We do have the Calling in Favors now, so we can set that up. We have the 4 resources thanks to the Astounding Revelation that we need to take care of the Mob Enforcer next turn. So that's awfully nice. And I think we're good to go. So we add a Doom, 10 of 19, and we draw an encounter card, which is going to be Dreamer's Curse. Test 5 willpower. For each point you fail by, take 1 damage to a maximum of 3 damage. For the purposes of counting icons committed to this skill test, intellect, combat, and agility skill icons count as matching icons, and willpower and wild icons count as 2 matching icons. Well, we can go 7 versus 5. I'd like to keep... I don't want to take damage here if at all possible. I could take 1, but... I'd like to keep Mr. Rook so I can use Calling in Favors. So let's use this. Let's use the Rite of Seeking to as an icon. It counts. So we're going 7 versus 5. Chaos Bag says 0, so we pass, and nothing happens. All right, we've got 3 actions. First action will pay off our friend here, the Mob Enforcer, who tracked us down in the Dreamlands somehow. We won't think about that too much. We can go 6 versus 3 to investigate with 6 cents. We will do that as our second action. Chaos Bag gives us another 0, so we grab this clue. That's not a resource, that's a clue. So we grab a clue, and then we have 1 action remaining. We will move back to the enchanted path. Easy peasy. 4, 5, 6, yeah. Okay, so now what we can do, we've got Mr. Rook emptied. Now we can basically use Calling in Favors next turn to try to get ourselves maybe a David Renfield or another copy of Mr. Rook, so we can abuse him even more. We go to the upkeep phase. We draw a Eureka. That's another search. So we've got all of our weaknesses out of our deck now, so we can search with Mr. Rook and Eureka to our heart's content without having to worry too much. So we will add a Doom. We are at 11 of 19, and we will draw an encounter card, which is a Crypt Chill. Uh-oh. That is annoying. But we are 6 versus 4, and if we fail, we have to discard an asset. I'm going to commit this Eureka to it. Sure, why not? Let's search for more cards. We'll go 7 versus 4. Chaos Bag says another 0. Chaos Bag's being very kind to us right now, so we get to search top 3. Top 3 cards. 4. There is a Storm of Spirits, a Drawn to the Flame, and a Ward of Protection. I think I'm going to take the Ward, just to protect us from that sort of crap in the future. No Astounding Revelation, unfortunately, but we can't have that turn up every time. How deep does Calling in Favors dig? Top 9, so that's pretty good. So we get 3 actions. First action, I am going to play Calling in Favors. To choose an ally I control, return it to your hand. So we bounce Mr. Rook back to our hand. Yoink. And we get to search the top 9 cards of our deck and play it, reducing its cost by 3. So if we find an Astounding Revelation here, we get 2 resources to boot. We do not find an Astounding Revelation, but we do find another copy of Mr. Rook. So X is the cost of the ally asset. 9 cards of your ally. Play it. So we play Mr. Rook. Ta-da. Now that is how that combo works. Awesome. So we play Calling in Favors, we pull Mr. Rook back to our hand, and we find ourselves a Mr. Rook. He has 3 secrets on him. We can exhaust him and spend a secret to look at the top 9 cards of our deck now, since we have no more weaknesses in our deck. And we find an Astounding Revelation, so we will deal with that. So we gain 2 resources. Whoops. That goes into our discard pile. And we get our choice of a 6th Sense, a Shriveling, a Holy Rosary, a Knowledge's Power, a Calling in Favors, a David Renfield, or a Drawn to the Flame. I'm going to take the Shriveling, I think. Because we've already got a Knowledge's Power. And we're doing really well here. We're basically set up, and we're just we've got 2 more searches with Mr. Rook that can find us basically any card we need at this point. We have 2 actions remaining after all of that. So let's move to the next location. Enchanted Woods. The Stone Trapdoor 2 shroud location with 1 clue. While you are investigating this location, it gets +1 shroud for each card in your hand. Oh, wow. That sucks. So it is a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shroud location. Ooh, that's tough. 7 shroud location. Is there anything we can do? Did I pay for him? Let me see here. I feel like I didn't. I added action markers. I removed an action marker. I moved it. No, I didn't pay for my calling in favors. So let's take a resource off. Okay. So we're back. We're set there. Okay, that's a bit of a problem. It's a Victory 2 location, but I don't really have a way of dumping. I could dump a lot of cards, but I don't really feel like dumping a ton of cards to that. So I think I'm going to move back. Let me see. How many did I have? I had 3. Yeah, I have one action remaining, so I am going to move back, I think. Don't really like that. Actually, I could Dreamgate. I could Dreamgate away, which would move me. Nah, it doesn't really help me. I'm just gonna move. I'm gonna move back. Maybe once we can Dreamgate there later. I think that's a better plan. If we need to, we can Dreamgate back there later and grab that clue some other time. But right now it's a bit out of our our league. So we draw into the flame. We add a doom. And we draw an encounter card, which is going to be another furtive Zoog. So he is a swarming 1. So he gets a swarm card. And so we'll have to kill him. We don't necessarily have to kill him. We could move away, but he's just going to stay and annoy us. We could also draw into the flame this Enchanted Woods location easily enough from the Dreamgate, should we need to. So we've got options. We've got a lot of options. Let's shrivel this guy. We will get, we are going 6 versus 3. I don't think I'm going to go through another Mr. Rook this game, so we'll... Actually, we've got a Knowledge is Power. We might as well... Whoops, the board is playing tricks on me. Let's move this back. There we go. We could Knowledge is Power this instead of using our... So let's do that as a free action. So we're going 6 versus 3. That's pretty good. They have Retaliate, though, which is kind of annoying. Yeah, I'll commit Mr. Rook to it. Why not? We've still got 2 copies of David Renfield in our deck if we need more allies. Soak. So we're going 7 versus 3. Chaos Bag says Skull. That is -2. So we take care of the, we deal 1 damage. We deal 2 damage, which are enough to deal with both of these guys. So this goes to the bottom of my deck. We didn't use an action to do that because we used our handy dandy knowledge is power for that. So let's move to this Enchanted Woods. Enchanted Woods, Lost Woods, 4 shroud location with 1 clue. Forced after you reveal this location. If you do not leave this location before the end of the round, place 1 doom on the current agenda. So we need to leave here if at all possible. We can certainly do that. We could use our Dream Gate to bounce out and then grab this clue with our Drawn to the Flame as well. So we are at 6 versus 4. Let's see what the Chaos Bag has to say. That's a skull, so that's a -2, so we succeed. So we grab this clue. Let's use our Dream Gate. So we exhaust the gate box and spend a charge. So we disengage from each enemy, engage with us, search our bonded cards for the Wondrous Journey, put it into play and move there. So then we're there. It is connected to each other revealed location. So from here we can play our Drawn to the Flame. And we can grab this clue here at the Enchanted Woods Stone Trap Door. And we draw an encounter card, which is going to be Law of Igiroth. The Law of Igiroth, Chaos, Peril Hidden. Secretly add this card to your hand. You cannot play cards or trigger abilities on player cards with odd printed resource costs. That is bad because that would lock us out of the gate box. That would prevent us from using the gate box. That is not going to happen. I am going to Ward of Protection that nonsense. And Mr. Rook can take a horror for us. We are not dealing with that crap this game. So easy enough there. And then at the end of the investigation phase, we get to move him to move Luke to a revealed location. So we can zip him back here to the Enchanted Path. We've got 1 action remaining. We might as well search the top 9 cards of our deck using Mr. Rook. So top 9 cards. We've got a Holy Rosary, Sixth Sense, David Renfield, Culling in Favors, a Hawkeye Folding Camera, a David Renfield, Knowledge is Power, Storm of Spirits, and another Ward of Protection. I'll take the ward. We've got pretty much everything we need in terms of other stuff. And we've got 1 more, so we've got only 9 cards in our deck, so we basically get any card we want with Mr. Rook next turn. All right. So we get another Drawn to the Flame, and we go to the Mythos phase. It's turn 10, 13 of 19. We need 2 clues to finish this off. So far, we've got 2, 4, 6 victory points. Our encounter card this phase is going to be Somnophobia. Test 5 willpower. For each point you fail by, take 1 horror to a maximum of 3 horror. For the purposes of counting skill icons, intellect, willpower, intellect, combat, and agility skill icons count as matching icons, and willpower and wild icons count as 2 matching icons. I'm fine with that. We're 6 versus 5. We've got plenty of willpower. We've got plenty of sanity. Chaos Bag gives us a 0 anyway, so that just does nothing to us. Now, We need 2 clues. We've got 3 locations, and one of them has the evil Gug on it. Can we deal 5 damage to said Gug? That is the question. We can. We sure can. It's just a matter of... we've also got the Dream Gate, so we can sneak away from him if necessary. So, we get our 3 actions. We have 3 actions. We need 2 clues. We might as well just keep going down the line. So we'll go here. We find the Great Stone Circle. After this location is revealed, spawn the set-aside Laboring Gug at this location. So we find the Laboring Gug. There's 1 clue at that location. Okay. Killing this guy is going to be tough. Evading him is slightly easier. So we can try to, we can grab this clue easily enough. I don't think I'm going to kill this guy. I could deal... It's a 6 versus 5. I don't quite have enough willpower really to be safe in killing him. So let's try to evade him. We'll go 3 versus 2. First action, 3 versus 2. Chaos Bag says 0. So the Gug is evaded. That is fine by me. Nope. Nope. All right, so we evaded the Gug. Let's grab this clue. Last action, we'll grab this clue. We will go... we're going 6 versus 1 with 6th Sense. That's fine by me. Chaos Bag says... Tablet, that's a -2. So we grab this clue. And that will be our turn. So during the enemy phase, or during upkeep, we get we draw our knowledge as power. And yeah. Killing him is going to be... I'd like the victory point, but killing him is a pretty big ask. He's got 5 health. I'd have to hit him with a Storm of Spirits, and both Shrivelings and a Knowledge's Power would probably get me through. But I can just evade him with the Dream Gate too. So I'm not overly worried. And he may not be able to get to us. I'm not too sure how the locations connect. So it would really depend on the location connection. But even if he attacked us, we could Dream Gate out. That's easy enough to do. We need 1 clue. So let's go to the Mythos phase. 14 of 19 Doom. It is turn 11. Let's draw an encounter card. It is going to be another Dreamer's Curse. We're taking damage for each point we fail by. I think I cancel that. I'm just going to cancel that. Damage is our weakness. We don't have a ton of damage to work with. But we will take Horror. So we will get rid of that. We get our 3 actions. Now we could evade, move, and set up the final clue. So let's try to evade. 3 versus 2. Chaos Bag gives us a 0. The Chaos Bag has been exceptionally kind to us this game. So hats off to the Chaos Bag for giving us a 0 there. We will move back, and then we will move over here. So we are at the Enchanted Woods Village of the Zoogs. 3 shroud location with 1 clue. After a Zoog enemy with the swarming X keyword spawns at this location, add 1 additional swarm card to it. So is this connected? It's connected to... This one is connected to the squiggly, which is the Enchanted Woods. The plus and the square. So it is not connected to my location. That's fine. Okay, so the laboring Gug is not going to get to us. Okay, that worked out well. That worked out about as well as we can hope. All right. Upkeep, we draw a Storm of Spirits. We've still got 1 Mr. Rook trigger we can use to grab a clue, to grab a card. So we're going to go to the upkeep. We're going to go to Mythos. 15 of 19. We draw an encounter. Oh, this one sucks. Actually, that's not too bad. Dreamlands Eclipse. Put Dreamlands Eclipse into play next to the agenda deck. When you initiate an investigation, you must either take 1 horror or your location gets +2 shroud for this investigation. We've got 10 sanity, so I'm really not that concerned about taking a horror. So yeah, that's fine. This can be pretty nasty in multiplayer, especially when you need to grab a lot of clues, and taking multiple investigations is really bad, but in solo it's not too bad. So 3. So we're going 6 versus 3 to grab this clue. Let's try that. Chaos Bag says -2. So we grab the clue at the Zoog Village. We've got the clues we need, but we might as well go for maximum victory points because we've got still 4 turns before we need to worry. So we will go move 1 and move 1. We flip over. It is the Enchanted Woods Mystical Forest. 4 shroud location with 1 clue. As an additional cost for you to leave this location, you must choose and discard 1 card from your hand for each clue on this location. That's not a big deal since we're going to grab the clue and then leave anyway. So we can finish this game off next turn. Very nice. We might as well use our Mr. Rook now. There's only one, I think only 1 turn left in this game. So let's go grab, we've only got 6 cards in our deck, so let's we'll look at them all. So we've got a Renfield, a Calling in Favors, a Holy Rosary, a Hawkeye Folding Camera, a Sixth Sense, and another David Renfield. Let's just take we could grab the Calling in Favors in case we need an agility skill icon, or we could grab the Hawkeye Folding Camera if we want a willpower icon. I like the willpower icon because we've got our I needed to take... Oh, did I investigate that turn? Yes, I did. So I need to take another horror. Let's do that. I'll take the willpower skill icon. This guy can only go to the plus or the square. Now, what matches this one? This one is the enchanted wood, but he can't get there. So he's got to go to either the plus or the square, and the plus isn't in play, so he goes to the square. So yeah, he can't get to us. That's weird. Because he can't enter the enchanted path. So yeah, the Laboring Gug is just going to sort of hang out while we finish the game. Hopefully next turn. All right. Make sure I shuffled my deck. All right, we go to the upkeep phase. We draw our Holy Rosary. We've got plenty of ways to finish this game at this point. We can... I mean, I could have taken that Calling in Favors, and we could have then pulled another Mr. Rook, even though we could have grabbed David Renfield instead of Mr. Rook there, and that would have been interesting. Would have given us plus one more willpower if we'd used it, but we're not going to need it, I don't think. So that's the upkeep. We added Doom 16 of 19, and we are drawing an encounter card, which is going to be Zoogburrow. Test 3 agility. For each point you fail by, add 1 swarm card to the nearest swarming Zoog. If you fail and there are no such enemies in play, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a Zoog and draw it and shuffle the encounter disc and the encounter deck. So we either pass this and nothing happens, or we face a Zoog. So 3 versus 3. I don't have any agility skill icons. So we're just going 3 versus 3. Chaos Bag says -3, so we fail. So we have to search the encounter deck and discard pile for a Zoog enemy, draw it, and shuffle the encounter deck. So we can just go find that, where's that furtive Zoog? He was pretty weak. He was a real weakling. So we'll bring him back. Search the encounter deck for a Zoog enemy, draw it, and shuffle the encounter deck. So yeah, we get a Zoog. Nope. My mouse is acting really strangely these days. So this card is the Swarm card. Come on. All right, there we go. No, stop doing that. My mouse is just behaving strangely as all. Okay, shuffle that up. Move the card. Okay. No. What is going on? All right. What's going on here? Come on. Man, you'd think a mouse would do its job here. So I need a Swarm card that I don't know. Okay. Now, don't flip it. Thank you. All right, so we got a Zoog. We have the furtive Zoog is back for the 3rd time this game. So the furtive Zoog returns. And we have to deal with him. We need 1 clue, and then we just need to zip back to the enchanted path. Enchanted path, and we win. We can spend the requisite number of clues. So let's blow this guy. Let's fry him. I'll just use a Shriveling Charge. Why bother when I've got a Knowledge is Power? Amazing card. Every single time. So we'll Knowledge is Power this sucker. We will... So we're doing this as a free action. We are 6 versus 3. Let's commit something to it. We've got a Hawkeye folding camera, so we'll go 7 versus 3. Chaos Bag says a cultist. That's a minus X. X is number of revealed enchanted wizard. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Minus 6. Okay, we hadn't planned on that. So we take a horror from the furtive Zoog. Minus 6. So we were at 7 versus 3, and we drew a minus 6. All right. So we failed by 2. So we take a damage. Now, is it 2 damage or 1 damage? I'm going to assume it's 1. I don't think Swarm works quite that way. I don't think the Swarm cards get the keywords, but let me check. Just a quick rules thing. So enemies swarm. Each swarm can be attacked separate. Simile. Okay. Place the top enemy underneath the swarm card without the end. The enemy would be underneath his host enemy. For most purposes, each swarm card has the same values and text as its host card. Okay. So he does have retaliate, so I do take 1 damage. And I took a horror because of that. Okay, that was an interesting little... that didn't cost me an action, though. Now, my question... What I could do here... Instead of messing around with this stupid Zoog, I could just play my Drawn to the Flame. Draw an encounter card. Take 1 damage, which... I'd take 2. I take 2 damage. And then I can beetle away. So I'm going to do that. So I will take an action to play my Drawn to the Flame. I will take 2 damage, one of which... Mr. Rook takes, and I will take 1. I will draw an encounter card, which is a prismatic phenomena. We put it into play in our threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, draw a resource or play, costs an additional action. After you successfully investigate a location, instead of discovering clues, discard prismatic phenomena. Now, this is not an investigate. I just get to discover clues. So I grab this clue. I draw the prismatic phenomena, which is fine. I will then use a... That was my first action. Wow, because I used the other one. I will use my gate box. So I will disengage from each enemy engaged with me, search my bond. I could have done this the other way. I could have bounced, and then the better play would have been to use the gate box, go to the Wondrous Journey, play the Drawn to the Flame, and do it that way. That would have been the smarter play. Don't do what I just did, trying to fight the zoo. But I mean, I was 7 versus 3. 7 versus 3. How often are you going to pull a cultist that's minus 6? It seemed like a good play. Turned out it wasn't, but we have an option. We can use the gate box to get away from this Zoog. If we had another copy of... oh, I would have used it as though I was engaged, so I would have taken the 2 damage anyway. So it wouldn't have mattered. Good point. Good point. Because I play the event as though I was at the connecting location engaged with enemies. So it wouldn't have mattered. Fine. It all works out. So I go to my Dream Gate. I will just wait till the end of the turn. I will... I guess I will just gain a couple of resources. Because I have 2 actions remaining. Too bad I can't, like... play an event. He doesn't have Retaliate. I could I could Storm of Spirits the Laboring Gug from my Wondrous Journey, from the Dream Gate. I only have... I don't quite have the... if I had 6 resources, I could deal 4 damage to him. But I don't. The most I could do would be 2. I'll just gain 2 resources. At the end of my turn, I bounce back. The Dreamgate kicks me out at the end of the investigation phase to move to any revealed location. During the first player window, I believe there is a player window in the right after the enemy phase. This guy has to move somewhere. Not too sure where he moves. To the triangle or the diamond. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He can't get me anyway. So during the enemy phase, I spend my 5 clues and I advance. And we win. There you go. Act 4B, New Visitors. As you near the edge of the woods, more of the rodent-like creatures emerge, swarming out of burrows and honeycombed trees. Soon the whole forest is alive with them. They surround you and chitter in a language you somehow understand. Intruders! They are the cats, new dreamers. No, they followed the black cat. But the black cat is not here. We are many, they are few. Several of them emit low growls as they begin to close in. Just then you hear a human voice call out, "What is the meaning of all this?" The owner of the voice is a blond young man with an unfazed expression. He is flanked by a pack of angry cats, each of whom falls into step beside him, save for one scarred old cat who takes the lead. You realize that the man speaks not to you, but to the creatures all around you, who slink backward as they are scolded. Then, to your ever-growing surprise, the scarred cat speaks. Your tribute is late. The investigators must decide, choose one, step back, and watch this surreal scene play out. R1, or interrupt the scarred cat and handle this yourself. R2. And that is Beyond the Gates of Sleep. So a very good run through for us. My playthroughs of my first practice games with this deck against this scenario, I did lose both times. One, I was way too slow. I got trapped at the beginning and couldn't get past. Took a lot of time getting past Nashed and Kamanta. And so I think I ran out of time. The second, I just got a really bad pull and ended up somebody retaliated and killed me when I should have beat them. But this scenario went very smoothly. Very happy with how it plays. This one, I do quite enjoy this scenario. It's nice to play a fun scenario like this after some of the scenarios that we have seen in the past couple of campaigns. This is a nice way to kick it off. Now, if you are a patron of the channel, make sure you stay tuned for the Patreon post-game show. I will be recording that right after this, so check your inboxes to find out, to grab the link to this, to the Patreon post-game show and hear my thoughts on this scenario and how the deck performed today. I will be back soon, hopefully, with the first part of the Waking World scenarios, that being Waking Nightmare, Scenario 1B. For that scenario, I will be playing Patrice Hathaway. I have not played Patrice before. I have played the scenario several times. It's a tough one. It can be very tricky to manage to get through it. But I am looking forward to playing Patrice. I have not played her before, so this will be a learning experience for everyone. So while the scenario itself won't be a blind playthrough, playing the investigator will be. So I hope you will stay tuned for that. But all in all, very happy with how the deck performed today, and we will finish off. We will be playing the Waking Nightmare, and then we have the Search for Gitath coming up. I have also played that scenario. I'm involved in a campaign with 2 groups of 4 survivors, with Lola being the honorary survivor of the group. So we are playing a 4 survivor campaign. So I have played the Search for Gitath, and but I will be bringing that and 1,000 Faces of Horror to you here in the days and weeks to come, so stay tuned for those. That's going to do it for this playthrough. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to become a patron of the channel and get access to patron-only content, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromleng@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromleng. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.